you do a master's in economics, then your avenues are open as many as there are opportunities, from academia to journalism to finance, to be a part of a company, to be involved in supply chain management, even human resource management. It's everywhere. So I tell my students that economics is the mother of all management studies. Are we in a place where whatever we do is the only thing that impacts our outcomes? No. Now, for example, how is your performance at work evaluated? It depends upon how others are doing. It depends upon how your boss perceives you. It depends upon how your competitors have performed. So there's so many factors which affect your outcome. Your action alone doesn't determine your outcome, but so many other factors determine your outcome. And therefore, our environment that we have is very strategic. And like for example, I am aware that whatever I say will have an impact on my daughter, and her outcome depends upon what I say. So I'm aware of that fact, or I do. So, but does that mean that that makes the home environment manipulative? I don't know why we all think that women have a disadvantage. If nothing else, we have an advantage, which is the following: that we work not only with our head, but also know how to balance it with our heart. And that bit is, I'm not saying that men can't do it. The ability of a woman to be intuitive, the ability to be a woman to be empathetic is quite high. And I think we have to nurture that.
Hi, welcome to Zerodha Varsity videos. I'm Satya Sontanam. On the occasion of International Women's Day, we have a very special guest joining us, Manaswini Bhalla, an associate professor teaching economics at Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore. In this episode, we'll talk about the career opportunities in economics and finance, the relation between economics and finance, and also a bit about gender disparity. We also discussed some of the interesting points on the role of luck and intuition in economics. Now, without further ado, let's start. Manaswini, thank you so much for joining us today, and happy Women's Day.
Happy Women's Day to you. Glad to be here.
I prefer to call you ma'am because you're from IIM Bangalore and in academics, but audience, she insisted me to call her Manaswini, so I'm proceeding with that. Manaswini, you teach a lot of people. What better way to start the conversation than asking you to explain what economics is for youth?
Okay, youth make many decisions, many choices. Let's say they decide, what kind of courses should they take? And if they have enrolled themselves in an undergraduate or a graduate program, they have to make decisions as to should they spend more time studying one course vis-a-vis the other. Now, these are choices, and we make many, many choices every second and throughout the day, several choices we make. Economics is nothing but study of choices. So economics understands choices of consumers, choices of producers, choices of households, choices of firms, and then also choice of nations and governments. So for a youth, when he's thinking of should I save or should I spend, that's a choice that will be understood can be understood from the lens of economics. And then any other choice, how should it spend its 100 rupees? Should it eat out or should it invest? All of that is a choice, and hence can be understood as from the lens of economics.
When we talk about economics, I think the first thing many people think about is supply and demand. When supply goes, the prices may fall down. When demand goes up, the prices may go up. How do we put choices into this equation of supply and demand?
You're right in saying, Satya, that the most popular framework in economics is that of supply and demand. Correct. It's a very misunderstood concept, the concept of demand and supply. And though it's very popular, but it's quite misunderstood. A demand curve and the supply curve look at the choices of consumers and producers, respectively. So, for example, for a consumer, what should be the amount that they would wish to consume is a choice, isn't it? So, how much do I want to consume is a choice. That is reflected by the demand curve. For example, if I want to consume a can of Coke, given the price of that can of Coke and the price of other alternatives that exist, including the amount that I have to spend on it, plus all the other conditions in terms of what are the tastes and preferences of that particular consumers, keeping all that as constant, how much do I wish to consume given the prices that change? So demand curve therefore tells you for different prices what are my choices of how much I wish to consume. Did that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Similarly, suppliers, the supplier's choice gets reflected in the supply curve. It says for different prices, how much does a supplier wish to sell? And that's how the choices get reflected in demand and supply curve. That it's not that prices are determined here in this framework. Prices can also be determined in this framework, but that framework is something different than this.
I understood that this is a subject of choices. Now, economics is also called a social science. Why is it called a social science?
Okay, I think it's not very difficult to see that. Let's break the two words, social and science. Now, if when we say economics is the study of choices, whose choices are we looking at? We're not looking at the environment around. We're not looking at anything which is natural. We're looking at human beings' choices. So it's a social aspect of human beings that we are trying to understand. So therefore, it becomes social science. It's not a natural science like biology. It's not a science which looks at certain like physics and chemistry. It looks at behavior. So therefore, it's a social. It has a social element to it. But is it a science? Absolutely, it's a science because it's very heavily driven by tools of mathematics and statistics. So combine them together. Therefore, you have economics, which is bigger social science.
Brilliant. Now, following up on that, traditional economics, they say that it considers that people make logical decisions, rational decisions. That's what traditional economics say. But there's something else called behavioral economics, which say that people may not be logical all the time. Of course, it's about choices. In both cases, it's choices, but in one way, it is logical. In the other case, it is, of course, people cannot be logical all the time, may not be all the time. So how do you see traditional economics and behavioral economics differently?
So I think you have explained it. I'll try some different words to explain the same thing. So look, when we're looking at choice making, we need frameworks. Like we have to start from somewhere. That okay, I want to understand choices of consumption. Make it very simple. Let's say I wish to understand the toothpaste. How do I what are the considerations in deciding what toothpaste that I choose? A very simple day-to-day choice that I make, or we all make. Now we can make a simple assumption that I am a rational person. Now, what does a rational person mean? It basically means someone who has all information available to him or her when making a decision. And second, it can make the best decision for himself. Two things. It has all the information available for himself, as well as it can make the best decision for himself. Now, first itself is very difficult to get, right? For example, the decision of the toothpaste that I wish to purchase. Now, do I have all the information available? Do I know everything about all the other products that I wish to produce, like all the other alternatives? Of the toothpaste that I wish to purchase. Do I have all the information about all the other alternatives of that toothpaste? I don't. So it's very difficult in real life to have that assumption. All right, and similarly, it's possible that I do not have the bandwidth to make the best decision all the time. Now, think about it. When you walk into the aisle, of a toothpaste, do I maximize my preferences given my constraints? Like, oh, I have a budget constraint of 20 rupees. I want to pick the best possible, and I want to maximize my preferences. So maximizing preferences will mean I'll have to look at all possible alternatives to offer toothpaste and then value them, evaluate them, and then pick the one. Obviously, you don't have the time. What do? You just go and pick the one which is the nearest to you, or the one which you have been consuming all the life, or the one which your parents or your partner has been using. So you just go with that. So these are examples of the fact that sometimes we don't have these two assumptions of rationality being valid. Now, need to look at behavior where humans are not necessarily rational, but to look at behavior of consumers when they're not rational also requires us to understand what happens when consumers are rational. For example, if I want to understand what is it when I am irrational, then I would love to compare it with what it is when I am rational. So therefore, we have to begin with rationality so that I have a benchmark case. And I say, okay, when I am irrational, I am impatient, or I have all those biases that are there, confirmatory bias or risk loss aversion bias, present bias. Whenever I have all of that, then how am I deviating from the benchmark? So therefore, we always begin with rationality, assume that we are rational, and then build on it to understand how things work, how things change when one becomes irrational, or when we introduce it one step at a time. And that part, when we look at consumers or agents as not rational, is a part of behavioral economics.
Coming from the investing side, even in the investing, we talk about a lot of biases. Of course, as you mentioned, the loss aversion bias and sunk cost fallacy, etc. A lot of other biases that we investors are asked to learn about their own biases so that they can overcome when they actually, when that gets triggered during the investing side. And in the investing side also, they say that it's not about what stock you're picking, whether it's a multi-bagger, not multi-bagger. It's mostly about what is the behavior you're having when you're picking the stock and holding it for a long time. So is this behavioral finance or the behavioral economics becoming a larger domain or a preferable course in the economics?
No, it's been there for several years now. A lot of people like Daniel Kahneman have received Nobel Prizes for their contributions in this field. So it's been around for several years now, and people can choose specialized master degrees in behavioral economics. For sure, they can do that. But does that mean that opens doors beyond the doors that get opened when you do masters in economics? I don't think so. I'm not quite sure. I think if economics, when you study economics or as a field of study, then you end up also studying behavioral economics as part of it. So you open your doors, or your avenues are much more when you're studying economics than when you are studying behavioral economics alone. But yes, if you are sure that this is what you want to do, then you should not think twice, and you should go ahead with behavioral finance or behavioral economics.
Right. What about you, Manaswini? I mean, were you really sure about getting into economics from the beginning or from your childhood itself? What's your journey there?
No, not at all. I took economics only in when I was in 10th, and but somehow I think my grandmother tells me that I always wanted to be a teacher. So that bit has always has come true. Economics happens to be a subject that I ended up taking. I knew I didn't want to be an engineer, though I had my typical engineering course subjects that I had taken in 10th and 12th, but I knew that I didn't want to be an engineer. So economics made sense because I loved the study of mind, and economics is also, as I said, looks at choice making, and it was not the perfect match, but a close match to something that I always was very intrigued by, which was just the study of mind.
You studied in Sri Ram College.
Yes, Lady Shri Ram College.
Yeah, and then Delhi School of Economics.
That's right. Masters.
I understand. So you have chosen to be in the academic side, chosen to contribute to economics and research. What are the other roles that people aspire to get into in economics?
So let's say if you graduate from, you do a master's in economics, then your avenues are open as many as there are opportunities related to business, analytics and business. So what I meant to say is that any job which is at the interface of business and analytics, and or logical thinking, is open to you. So from academia to journalism to finance, to be a part of a company, to be involved in supply chain management, even human resource management. It's everywhere. So I tell my students that economics is the mother of all management studies. Now, be it finance, marketing, supply chain management, everything is and can be looked at from the point of view of economics. So if you do economics, then anything which is at the interface of business and policy making. I missed that. Policy making is also a big part of it. You can be part of think tanks. You can be part of corporates and looking at different aspects of corporate behavior, like finance, OBHR, looking at marketing, sales, organizational behavior, and human resource. So even that bit, not to say that other fields can't contribute to it, but economists would be adept to do it also. And then supply chain management. So anything that, and business analytics. So wherever you have to any interface with respect to business and logical thinking and statistical tools being used for it, economists, be assured, can be very well, can do the job very well, because training in economics means a very solid training in several tools, mathematical tools as well as statistical tools as well as logical thinking. So you're building up very bright thinkers who can apply those tools to real life problems.
So corporates are also open to.
Absolutely. So go to my alma mater, go to other places like ISI, and other schools in in India, which just offer masters, not MBA. They have fantastic corporate placements. And they get picked up in banks. They get picked up in companies like pharmaceutical companies, FMCG companies like P&G, HUL, and then they have and my batchmates are doing phenomenal in these domains. They end up getting being at the leadership positions eventually, because they have very solid understanding of the business, as well as the way in which business is analyzed and evaluated, because they have very solid understanding of statistical and mathematical tools. So whatever you're presenting, whatever anybody is coming and presenting, that this is their conclusion, they would know. They would have an understanding of how it has been derived or what is missing in the analysis. So I highly recommend anybody who has a very logical aptitude mind and wants to be a part of business and policy making, or even academia, to take up economics and give it a shot.
Nice. Did you ever think of getting out of academics and going to organizations?
As I told you, it seemed like as if it was something that I already knew that I was my domain. I didn't. I always wanted to teach because I love to connect with my students, with people. And I think when you teach, it's not just economics that you teach. There's something else that you end up putting forward as yourself. And that's something that I think I may miss out when I'm in corporate world, which that connect with people. So I think now I realize why I wanted to be a teacher all the time.
They say, right, when you are teaching, two people are learning. It's the person who is teaching as well as the person who is listening. Yeah. So, what is the ideal path in this field of economics? Like, how do we start after your +1 or +2?
Let's define the goal. What's the goal that you think we are reaching at? If you can help me understand, are you saying how do I become a master's in
Maybe someone who wants to get into policy making
Okay.
or think tank.
Okay, so and so in let's if we evaluate only our options within India, shall we do that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so there are several options, and we have courses in masters in economics across the country, and I would not list them out lest I would be pulled up for being biased or preferential. So it's open for you to go and see. There are very very good institutes across the country. And there are also institutes which offer MBE, Masters in Business Economics, which is much more specialized for business itself. So, but let's say if you want to do masters, if you want to be in public policy, then I think the idea is to do very well in your undergraduate degree. Take up internships or work with people who are working with data and applying it in policy work, policy related matters. For example, a lot of people have made a living as well as done their PhDs in looking at how data can be used to predict political outcomes, like electoral outcomes. So if and also evaluating how policies that have been brought into place done over the period of time. Has it really had an impact? If yes, then what kind of impact and for whom? So these are major issues. These are broadly outlining the issues that you can look at when you look at the role, look at how economists can contribute towards policy making, politics, as well as impact evaluation of policies. So the path would be to be open to read more and to connect with seniors in undergrad and also with faculty members over the period of time to see what kind of work they're doing, and does it impact you, does it excite you. And then obviously then there are entrance tests for these master courses like Delhi School of Economics, ISI, IGIDR, and several others, to sit for those exams, clear it, get into masters, and then connect with faculty members there, take up projects with them, or do think of projects under them, initiate your own, or if they have their own, then do that, and then sit for placements and do summer placements.
We're talking about economics, but we also end up talking about business. We also end up talking about finance, as you mentioned. Finance and economics are generally, considered as two different or separate disciplines, but they're also interrelated. How do you see economics and finance?
Look, as I just told you, I think economics is the mother of all management studies, including finance. Now, when we say what is a finance as a study of as a study, it's looking at choices of firms related to their financial matters. Okay, so therefore it comes under economics by that domain. So should I go for an IPO? Yes or no? How much should I borrow? Should it be debt or should it be equity? So these are all questions that when a researcher or any agent asks, it's asking as an economist. So though you will term it as, however, that doesn't mean that everything under finance will come under economics. There is an aspect of it which is accounting, which is not necessarily something that economists end up taking or doing. So accounts is certainly an aspect that at least at this point in time, economic studies don't directly look at or work at. So that bit, I think that is something which you can say is not a part of economics, but is a part of finance. But most of the corporate financial issues are issues which are dealt with economists also. So, for example, we have. I myself have worked on issues which are of interest for economists as well as finance. So it's very hard to distinguish between these two, except for the fact that Accounting is certainly an issue which economists don't study directly.
But most of the roles in finance, of course, not related to accounting, can be interchangeably applied by economists.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So Farmer and Finch, who are very, very notable professors who have contributed to financial theory, are economists as well, are trained economists.
So, as per your profile, it says that you have expertise in pricing, game theory. The game theory sounds very interesting. Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, so that Beautiful Mind is the story, is a movie that comes to mind. Now, like let's say we think about ourselves in this island where we are the producers of. We're the only ones there. There's nobody else, and you are going up the coconut tree to get the coconut, and you are the one who brings it down, and so you're the producer of coconut, and you're also the consumer of coconut. Now, do we live in an island like that? In real life, are we in a place where whatever we do is the only thing that impacts our outcomes? No. Now, for example, how is your performance at work evaluated? Is it like that in the case of a island, like the one which we mentioned, like that of a Robinson Crusoe, that the amount of input that you put in, the amount of effort that you put in, is the only thing that will matter in your evaluation? No. It depends upon how others are doing. It depends upon how your boss perceives you. It depends upon how your competitors have performed, so that in the competition of the firm has performed. So there's so many factors which affect your outcome. Your action alone doesn't determine your outcome, but so many other factors determine your outcome. And therefore, our environment that we have is very strategic, which means that our environment, where the outcome of our actions depend upon actions of others, becomes a strategic environment, isn't it? Because it depends upon what others are doing as well. So that is the study of such strategic environment is game theory. Strategic environments being where the outcome of my action depends not only on what I am doing, but also on what others are doing. For example, a firm's performance. It doesn't depend only on how good the firm is doing, what efforts it has put in, whether it has done marketing properly or not. It depends upon consumers' perception. It depends upon its competitors. It depends upon whether there will be another natural disaster or not. It depends upon government as well. So all those factors determine how well a firm is, and therefore it makes the environment that we are in strategic, and that is game. The study of such environments is game theory. So therefore, it directly leads to strategy, strategic thinking, and therefore, anybody intelligent listening in would say that strategy or consulting is nothing else but a domain of economics as well. I said yes, absolutely. So
all these things, the external factors are also defined, and it is made into a science.
Yes, so that's true. So the way in which you evaluate or let's say analyze a situation may vary, but in economics, you give some parameters, you make some assumptions, and then say, okay, if I believe that my competitor will not react or will react in a particular case, you make those assumptions and then think forward or hypothesize what's the best thing for you to do. So you have to put some structure to this environment for sure to make a prediction. And making a prediction is a big part of your of game theory. Otherwise, what's the point of analyzing a strategic environment?
So your research is in this?
Yes, I did my PhD in that. Though I don't work on that anymore alone, I work on role of identity and business as well. The role of gender and role of other identity aspects also in business.
What do economists think about luck?
Very interesting question. I don't think that they have an answer outright. I don't think they're trying to understand luck or go deeper into what is luck. But yes, they incorporate luck or an unknown factor or an unknown error in their analysis all the time. Most of the times, they are aware of the fact that decision making or what they observe is or can be explained by several observable factors. For example, how you perform on an exam can be explained by several factors like your education, your school, your father's or parents' education level. So, several observables, but it also is related to some unobservable factor. So, that part is something that we account for. So we call that as an error, but which is also can be thought of as luck. But do we care to understand luck? That's left for other studies to understand. We don't delve deeper into understanding luck.
Being in this field of economics all the time, reading so many theories, papers, research, has there any personal trait that you have developed, or that made you because of what
economics.
yeah.
So I think, I mean, what studying and going deeper into any subject, be it economics or anything else, does is that it makes you introspective. It makes you think about yourself, your actions, and evaluate them. And I think that is an aspect that I hold very dearly to myself, and I think I can attribute it to an extent, not all of it, to the study of economics.
Maybe an example. Want to dig deep, because economics, as we talked in the beginning, it's about making rational choices. Do you always want to be rational?
Very interesting. So I'll answer the last question first. Yeah. I'm very aware of the fact that everything is strategic. Even at home, I am aware of the fact that it is strategic. And
like what?
Like, for example, I am aware that whatever I say will have an impact on my daughter, and her outcome depends upon what I say. So I'm aware of that fact, or I do. So, but does that mean that I am that makes the home environment manipulative? Not at all. The objective to which you use the strategic thinking is the collective good. It's not the good it's not the good for myself, this oneself, Manaswini, but it's also it's the collective good of the family. So keeping that collective good in mind, knowing that we are all interrelated and dependent upon each other, I use that part to know when to step in and when to push back. When I know that my action as a parent is going to be emulated, so I'm very careful of the fact that we are all strategic and we are working towards a common goal. So that's something that you can say that is something that I bring home. But as I mentioned very carefully, it's for the collective good of the family.
Right. Does it make you an overthinker?
Not at all. I know when to shut off. I know when to shut off.
In India, we give a lot of importance to studying abroad. So is it necessary that we have to go abroad, or
Not at all.
How do you think?
Not at all. We have very good institutes here in India to pursue your PhD in economics per se, and I will leave and keep myself to economics alone. And they give you a very wide exposure of the kind of work that's been done outside in countries out of India. Now, why is doing PhD outside attractive? Could be just hysteria, just could be just a fetish, but there could be some substance to this fetish. The reason could be that exposure to different ideas, different people, and excellence it helps you grow. So there is some merit, but you can also see that the same our products, our students who have gone to out of India to do their PhD are now back as professors in Indian universities and cultivating the same environment that you may want to be exposed to outside. So it's not necessary that you have to go outside to do a PhD. You can get a very similar environment with great degree of excellence and pushing the bar all the time when you are doing a PhD or even a master's in India.
Mm. What about the opportunities in the, you know, work that they're doing? So is it lucrative enough in India when it comes to economics?
In terms of remuneration?
Remuneration, or, you know, the kind of job that we do, or again, as you said, it's a wholesome. Yeah, remuneration is definitely a part of it.
Yeah, which is not, I don't, definitely it's not at par. Remuneration is not at par at all in comparison to that of abroad. But
It's much lesser.
Certainly. And am I evaluating academics, or am I evaluating academics or PhDs? What am I evaluating? I mean,
academics and maybe other job roles for the economists. Maybe as we talked about, think tanks, you know, people in business, economists in business field, economists in, you know, financial analysis or HR.
So I won't be able to get into each one of them particularly for paucity of time, and because I'm not versed with all of them so very well. But I can say that broad culture of work is evolving in India. We may think that India is in a like work culture wise not at par from abroad, but it is. And in many domains you have reverse migration happening, and it improves the general quality work, the kind of work standards that we have here. And with technology now, I don't think that teams are geographically located alone. So I don't think that satisfaction which you evaluate of a job which is beyond payment is very different or cannot be improved in India. It can be improved in India, certainly.
But still, when it comes to pay or remuneration, it's still a large gap.
Certainly.
I'm sitting with an economics professor. I really want to ask this question about economic equality, where, you know, you talked about aspiration. Everyone in India has aspirations, wherever they come from, whoever they are, having access to resources, having same opportunities is what economic equality talks about. A few words about this?
So economic equality, I think you can look at it from different points of view. So if you think about equality, is it equality of income? Is there income equality, which means how much do I bring in? Does a man's income different from that of women's income? So that's a very crude way of looking at equality. But there are many things which go behind it. For example, wealth equality, which is beyond just income. How much do you inherit? How much do you, which is beyond just how much you earn. It's wealth. And so wealth equality is one aspect. And opportunity, and there's no word about it, but opportunity, equality in terms of opportunity. Does the family, does the society give equal opportunities in practice to all members of its society? And in principle, by the Constitution of India, we are supposed to do that. There's right to education, there is right to information, but do we see that happening in practice or not? That's something that I don't think that we measure, or it's even possible to measure. And then opportunity, equality in decision making or not. So these are questions which come in the social structure of the society, and they end up getting reflected in statistics that we observe. These are the different aspects of society. These different aspects of equality that we find now. How are things changing? I think women are much more there in terms of out there as in terms of in terms of jobs and trying to seek opportunities in terms of education. But is there income equality? No. Certainly not. There are a lot of research out there. It says in India and outside, a man and a woman, if they do the same work, women is likely to be paid less than that of a man, than man. Now, is there equality in terms of opportunity, in terms of job opportunities? Again, a lot of research which says that gender plays keep two CVs exactly identical. Just change their gender and names, you will find that the person that one particular gender is more likely to be invited for a job than the other one. So there's still a lot of work to be done to bring on equality in these aspects of our functioning.
You do actively research on any of this gender related
No, I look at the role of gender and caste actually in boards of India, of board of directors in India. So yeah, but I haven't actively looked at only gender.
And I mean, in your journey, I mean, as a woman, in this field of academics, at least, did you face any challenges?
Yeah, several. I joined as a 27-year-old professor, let's say assistant professor in IIM Bangalore. In many cases, I was younger than my students that were that I was teaching. So yeah, I was the wrong gender, wrong side of the age because I was younger than the average, and I was also teaching something which was technical. If women typically are supposed to teach something which is softer, easy to understand, and I teach economics, which is not so simple to understand. Several challenges in students taking what I'm saying as seriously as other male counterparts would like to say. So yeah, so that's just a challenge with respect to students. But yes, there were other challenges as well.
How did you overcome, and maybe the things that would help younger women of this generation also?
So I'm not sure if academia can be completely replaced to work life, the other workplaces, but I think what I did very consciously was that I didn't leave, I didn't quit. I kept on working on myself so that there is no scope for me to question, take their few, the feedback that I would receive from the students seriously. I worked on myself enough in terms of what I taught, how I presented, so that there was no scope for any error or any lapse, and then my work would speak for myself, and I didn't need anything else to validate myself. So that was one thing that I think did, which probably changed the tide. And yeah,
Things are changing. I hope the current generation may don't have to necessarily go through the same.
no, yeah, but I don't know why we all think that women have a disadvantage, but being in business or in academia or at workplace, and we have to come at power. I don't think so. That we face any disadvantage. If nothing else, we have an advantage, which is the following: that we work not only with our head, but also know how to balance it with our heart. And that bit is, I'm not saying that men can't do it, but that bit we know that women can do it. And gone are the days in academia where you are a tough taskmaster, you push the students to make them feel of no worth. No, and in academia, as well as in business, the role of being compassionate, the role of encouraging, the role of being empathetic is so important. And I think that ability I'm not saying others don't have it, men don't have it, the ability of a woman to be intuitive, the ability to be women to be empathetic is quite high, and I think we have to nurture that and say that we have that within us, and so we don't really need to match up to the qualities that others expect us to do. We have that in us. So we don't have to break the ceiling, if you may.
So why don't you give us some sneak peek into how a day looks like in a professor's day?
Three big compartments in which an academician contributes. First is teaching. We teach we teach all kinds of, at IIM Bangalore, we teach all kinds of students, MBA, PhDs, corporates, executives. So teaching. And then the second bucket is research. So we do a lot of research. As I said, we ask our own questions and try and answer them, which have meaning and purpose for the for business at large. And then third is a lot of administrative work. So which involves looking at roles and responsibilities and how the direction of the institute should go forward in small minute municipal places. So these are the three broad buckets in which we use our time. Sometimes, and then also you connect with your faculty and your colleagues. So this is the broad 4 days.
Which one do you like the most?
I think teaching. I enjoy teaching and connecting with my students the most. though, as I said, economics is just an excuse. It's connecting with the students that I enjoy more. So we use a lot of different medias. We use videos, we use in-class experiments, we use case studies, etc., etc. So we use all kinds of techniques to get them involved and interested.
Yeah. What is that in-class experiment? Maybe an example.
Okay. So let's see. There's a concept of diminishing marginal utility in economics, which basically says the more I consume a particular product, the less is the kick that I get from it. The additional benefit that I get from it is reduces. So how do I explain this to a rather hungry class of mine? I sometimes take a bag of candies to my class, and then I ask 2 volunteers to come and be a part of this experiment. So they consume one candy after the other, and I ask them how they feel about this consumption. And soon, the very hungry volunteers say, I'm done, no more. So that, and we have a very nice way of eliciting out their marginal utilities, and they come to a point where they say that, yeah, we have reached our diminishing marginal utility. So that's one experiment, in class experiment.
Interesting. Now, coming to the last segment, I want to understand the outlook or the opportunities currently for the economists or people who are pursuing career in economics or finance. How is it? How does it look like going forward? The opportunities.
I think they are. I think with the advent of artificial intelligence, things will become much more easier for us to do. Coding, writing becomes much more easier. But does that mean that the roles change? Well, they will change. Just that now you have the human bit, the human decision making, that error that you mentioned, that judgment, that luck bit. How do you evaluate and dispel that luck bit, which cannot be done, which cannot be accounted for by artificial intelligence all the time, is going to be the real deal. So working on your intuition as an economist and using your intuition in decision making will be very, very much more important as well.
Any example on that?
Okay, yeah, there is an example that comes to my head. For example, there was a student who came to me, and we were talking about the importance of intuition, because we don't teach intuition in decision making, and because it cannot be taught, it can only be harnessed. Now, there was this student who comes and tells me that, ma'am, I had a business during COVID, and that business was failing. And everybody told me, shut it down during COVID. And I consulted all consulting firms. And they said, well, yes, stats tell us that you should shut it down. You don't have enough money. And future tells us, at least anticipation of the virus tells us, that it will last for a long time and you should shut it down. But he said that, ma'am, I had an intuition that I should not. And he did not. He held on to that intuition and he did not shut it down. And now he's doing much more better than what he had when he started off before COVID. So these are examples of how intuition is so important and critical in decision making, which economists don't look at, but as in the field of management, we have to incorporate. And I encourage students to think about it beyond just thinking about, going and reading at the books or reading and listening to what people are saying. But you should also listen to that gut feeling which is inside you, and always try and tap into it as far as possible.
Interesting. So, who do you suggest getting into economics? Who do you suggest avoid economics?
Okay, so if you are someone who is more artistic, or someone who is more oriented towards art forms, then economics is not for you. If you like finance and if you like mathematical, logical way of thinking, and you want to use it towards real life problems, then economics is for you. So anybody who wants to solve real life problems using mathematics and logic, then this and data, basically logical thinking, data, maths this economics is for you. Economics and finance is for you.
Just last one question: what is that one thing that you would advise the younger self of you, if for pursuing a career in economics or just for any career development?
So professionally, I think I may have one regret, which was that I think I did not pick up enough tools in while I was doing my PhD. Then and there, tools like analytical tools and data, but which I picked up eventually over the period of time. The data analytical tools. So yeah, so that would be my my practical advice to myself. But an advice to, let's say, people out there in general, as I was mentioning before, that what, a lot of people will tell you a lot of things. And I keep telling this to all my students, that a lot of people will tell you a lot of things, but they are their truths. That's not your personal truth.
So true.
So you have to find your personal truth, and that won't come in just outrightly. You have to find a way to tap into that. I call that inner Alexa, because that sound inside every day. It doesn't have to be cross-legged, but it could be just listening to music, walking, singing, writing, reflecting. So a practice that brings you closer to that voice inside you, so that you can tap into it when it's really needed. Which, as I was saying, intuition and the right choices to make, the decision to make, that will come in only if you are tapping into it every day. So just try and ensure that you're tapping into some small practice of doing that, and then you will end up taking the right decision. So you don't have to listen to everybody's opinions, all the guest speakers, all the podcasts that you listen to, but you listen to yourself, which is your person.
This is a beautiful way to end the conversation, especially in the digital world where we see Instagram quotes, so many people talking about their life experiences. Everything cannot be related to our life. We cannot apply everything that everybody is saying. And as you said, I think we should listen to our inner voice on
inner
what
Alexa.
Inner Alexa on what really suits our personality and who we are. Brilliant. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a wonderful talking to you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.